Well, hello there. This is Richard the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. I hope you enjoyed the unboxing of these Royal Chessmore luxury chess pieces and the matching storage box. Now, I've had a relatively long relationship with Royal Chessmore, the company, largely just as a customer. I reckon I bought my first set of wooden chess pieces from Royal Chessmore around 10 years ago. I think I might have bought them for my son. He was turning 5 or 6, and I wanted to teach him to play chess on some nice pieces. And since then, I've bought quite a few additional sets. And in fact, I've given away sets as gifts more than I've necessarily kept for myself. After, of course, using them for a little while, holding on to the ones which are my favorites. Now, over that period of time, I've always actually been very happy with the quality of pieces from Royal Chessmore, which was why when Royal Chessmore contacted me about a month ago on whether or not I would be interested in receiving and reviewing some of their merchandise, some of their products, I thought, well, why not? I like the ones which I've bought for myself. I think I would be quite happy to have a look at some additional things. Now, I don't consider myself generally a review channel, so if I wasn't sure I liked the company, I probably wouldn't bother, but I actually do like their pieces and I really love wooden chess pieces, as you would know if you've seen some of my videos on my channel before. Now, Royal Chessmore is based out of India, out of the city of Amritsar in Punjab, and this is the city where the best chess pieces are now made. So we've got now multiple generations of craftsmen who are become experts. They specialize in particular pieces. In fact, most of the affordable and in fact even luxury carved wooden chess pieces come from Amritsar, come from one of these manufacturers, even if the storefront is seemingly based in the UK or based in the USA. Now, for this particular set, it's the 1849 Staunton set, and it's named after Englishman Howard Staunton, who was the world's strongest chess player back in 1849. The pieces were designed by Nathaniel Cook and originally produced by Jacques of London. And these pieces were heavily promoted by Staunton himself. He was known to be the strongest chess player of the world. I think on release, he signed every box of the pieces that were produced. He was really into it. And the pieces, so the Staunton design, really represents, I think, one of the most iconic designs in modern human history. If you don't really know what the Staunton chess design is, if you just imagine in your mind chess pieces, you're probably thinking of the Staunton design. Even though there's a lot of modifications on the design, it's like if you're imagining modern chess pieces, you're imagining the Staunton design. And it's interesting, back in the middle of the 19th century, there are lots of different designs of chess. Like I think in the UK, in Britain, they used chess pieces which look quite different to the Staunton design. In Europe, so in the continent, they use pieces which I've sort of demonstrated a little bit before with my Austrian coffee house pieces. Again, those pieces look somewhat different to what we think of as standard de facto chess piece design, and that came from this set in 1849, the original Staunton set. Now, originally, when I was making this video, actually, this is just a bit of an aside, I was thinking of using, something really classical, something really classy, something like a Bach as a background. But as I thought and reflected a little bit more about Howard Staunton, I realized that that wasn't exactly appropriate. So you see, Howard Staunton was quite a pioneer in chess. He was a bit of a trailblazer. He defeated Saint-Amand in 1843, and in doing so, broke the prestige that the French had over chess. So prior to that point, for over the last 100 years, the best chess players, people who would be acknowledged as the best chess players in the European world, were in France, based out of Paris, out of the Regency Cafe. And this is from a guy who didn't really seriously get into chess until his mid-20s. So he didn't, it wasn't like a prodigy the way we would think of now. And so for the music, as you might have worked out, it's not Bach. It's a very, very British piece, Pomp and Circumstance, because Howard Staunton was, some people considered him to be a bit arrogant, a bit pompous as well, but also triumphant in his victory. And this was written by a composer, Edward Elgar. And I would say that this is, Elgar's probably the most British looking person ever. Now, these are luxury handmade pieces from Royal Chessmore. They are quite beautiful, and the pieces are practically flawless. The white pieces are a distressed antiqued colorway, and they're stained and then covered with a sort of with some lacquer. It's sort of got a mild to low gloss. It's not a high gloss. Some of the product photography on their website themselves make these pieces look much glossier than what they are in real life. So they look really, really quite elegant. The black pieces are carved from ebony rather than just stained boxwood. So ebony is a heavier luxury, very, very nice wood. As I said, both are lacquered. Now, sometimes for lower quality pieces, you can really tell in the rooks around the crenelles or the crenellations, which is the battlements of the rooks. But as you can see on these macro shots, the carving is basically perfect. It's just beautiful. There's no sort of loose bits of wood or bits which are nicked off at all. And here a macro shot of one of the knights, and you can see the original, so 1849 Staunton design is somewhat more plain compared to, I suppose, some of the other luxury pieces. So that was the original design. So these are pieces which don't have a lot of ornamentation. They're simple. This was the original design, and the advantage is it's got an absolutely classic look and also makes them quite robust. There aren't little bits and pieces which can rub off or break off if you drop the pieces. They're very, very nice. Now, probably the one thing that is a little bit different about the 1849 original Staunton pieces is you can see on one of the rooks and knights of each color there is a glyph of a crown carved on the top. With the white pieces, you just see the darker coloring of the glyph from the stain, and for the black pieces they're dyed red. And you can see with the rook, this is probably my one minor critique of the quality of these pieces, which I think the tops of the black rooks are slightly under lacquered. Now you can fix that quite easily by just rubbing in just a little bit of vegetable oil. I don't usually bother doing that. I don't really mind that much, but you know, I would have preferred these to be perfectly lacquered given the price of the pieces. They are very well weighted. They feel absolutely wonderful in the hand. Because these are luxury pieces, like many luxury pieces, they're quite large. So the king is 4.5 inches in height, and that's actually substantially larger than tournament size pieces. Tournament size kings, classically about 3.75 inches. Now what this means is that if you play these on a tournament size board, the pieces can look a little bit cramped. Now I would say for these size pieces, it's still okay. It's still fine, you can still play it. It's aesthetically, it's not too problematic. In my view, I still think it's a little bit cramped. Now ideally, you know, the idea is you should be able to fit about 4 pawns in each square. That's about the right size. So as you can see for my first set of videos, that the right size board for these size pieces is 2.5 inch side squares, which is 64 millimeter squares. Now, this does mean that potentially you might need to buy another board if you invest in these sort of luxury pieces. If you're paying so much for these pieces, I think it's well worth the investment. You know, you really want to have it aesthetically right when you're paying so much for the pieces. And, you know, at the end of the day, for hand-carved luxury pieces, they're not really that expensive. These are pieces that will last a lifetime. You could probably hand these on. These are really, really good. Now, the Leatherette storage box, it's designed for these size pieces. They're not designed specifically for this one design, which means that the slots that you can put the pieces in are a little bit loose. Now that's okay. You can, if you're just using this to store pieces at home, it's not a problem at all. However, if you are actually planning on using the box to take your pieces around, now I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure why you want to do that, but if you were doing that, you were taking these pieces out and about to play, then the pieces are a little bit loose inside the box. They rattle a bit, some of the pawns can potentially come out. Now, what I would do would be to use some of the padding material that in fact came in the packing material, cut out some of the foam just as a big sheet into the trays just to keep the pieces from rattling. The other thing you can do, of course, is if you are taking these out and about and you're using something like a mouse mat or maybe a silicone board, you just slip that foldable board against the pieces. Again, it just stops them from rattling. For the price, I think, of the storage box, you do really need to think about whether you really need them. If you're only keeping them at home, you could buy a cheaper wooden storage box, you know, because you're not moving them about. It doesn't really matter that they would otherwise rattle if you were shaking it, because you're not going to be doing that anyway. I think if it was up to me myself, I would probably just use a different box that's a little bit cheaper to store the pieces. But if you are planning on taking it out and about, this is not a bad option. The pieces cost $390 US or your local or in your local currency. The box is, what is it? 195. Now, the thing about Royal Chessmore is they do inflate their prices a little bit on their website. Pretty much you can always get 25% off. You just have to use a coupon code. The coupon code is literally on the front of their website. So you can always get 25% off. That means the pieces just come at just under $300 US and the box is just under 150 or your local currency. Now you can use my coupon code as well, but you're going to get a better discount with the with just the standard coupon code to get the 25% off. But if you use my affiliate link, I do get a payment from Royal Chessmore, and it does help support the channel. You don't have to, you can if you want to. Shipping is free, so shipping is rolled into the cost of the pieces for most parts of the world. Not everywhere, but in most parts of the world, definitely including Australia, where I live, the United States, Canada, many countries in Europe. So you don't have to worry about the cost of postage. They use a courier. So in Australia, they send via FedEx. I think in some other countries, they use DHL. As you saw in the unboxing, it is remarkably well packaged, plenty of padding to stop pieces from potentially getting damaged, and each of the individual pieces are further wrapped with foam sheeting. Absolutely, I would not expect there to be any damage to the pieces, even if the boxes were dropped from a height, even if they got borderline crushed. I think they're perfectly okay. In the many sets of Royal Chessmore pieces I've bought over the years, I have never had a time when any pieces came close to being damaged in transport. Now, Royal Chessmore does give, I think, 3-year free replacement warranty. So if there is something wrong with one of the pieces, they come damaged, or one of the pieces for some reason cracks over that 3-year period, they will send a free replacement, which is very good. I think that's good for peace of mind. I think the reality is that they don't actually expect to have to send replacement pieces, other than maybe pieces which had some quality control issues. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review of these Royal Chessmore original 1849 Staunton chess pieces, and also the matching storage box. Have a great day.